AP Bio Internal Anatomy of a Cat. The first thing on the list is the body of the uterus. This is the female cat, by the way. The body of the uterus is where the two individual tubes of the uterus combine into one, and it goes towards the posterior part of the organism. The next thing on the list is the bronchus. It's harder to see on the cat, but it's a little bit easier to see on the separated pig heart. You can see it's where the one tube of the trachea splits into the two tubes of the individual lungs, and that's those individual tubes leading to the lungs are the bronchi. Next thing on the list is the lungs, and that's pretty obvious. You can see that on the cat here. It's the two separate masses on either side of the heart. Next thing on the list is the aortic arch, which is a little bit harder to see on the organism, but it's where the pulmonary trunk combines with the heart. Is that correct? It attaches to the heart, and the aortic arch is the major artery, pretty much. Is that correct?
It's where the pulmonary trunk combines with other arteries and then connects to the descending aorta.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Thanks. Next thing is the right auricle, and the auricles are pretty straightforward. The important thing is to look at this from the perspective of the cat. So that will be the right auricle, and the left auricle is the small flap on the other side. The next thing on the list is the urinary bladder. It's pretty straightforward. It's the big flap of tissue. It's an empty sac on the very posterior part of the organism. Next thing is the spleen. Straightforward again. It's on the other cat, it's a little bit lightly colored brown. On this one, it's a pretty deep reddish brown, so you can see it pretty easily. Next thing is the renal vein, and the renal vein is very specific. It specifically connects, I believe, the kidney to the caudal vena cava. And it's just, let me get this above here, it's just that individual vein. It's very short, but it attaches from the kidney to the caudal vena cava. It's on the other kidney as well, as you can see there. Next thing on the list is the descending aorta. This is the major aorta. This is the major artery that gives blood to the rest of the organism, oxygenated blood, and this is found. It's below the heart, and it connects with the aorta, I believe. The aorta connects to the. Is that correct, Stephen?
It connects to the aortic arch. Yes.
Okay, good. The next thing on the list is the trachea, and the trachea. I believe that for the test, it'll be cut a little bit closer to the head. But the trachea is somewhere in there. It's basically the tube that leads from the esophagus and the mouth to the lungs. Good. Next thing on the list is the horn of the uterus, I believe. And horn of the uterus, there's basically two different tubes that connect to the body of the uterus. Not to be confused with the next thing on the list, which is the ovary. And the ovaries are the two bumps, or the two little masses of tissue, flaps of tissue on either side on the two individual horns. And let me get a better angle there, and you can see them pretty easily. Next thing on the list is the renal artery, and that's the entire, I'm sorry, not the entire, it's the artery that leads from the center, I believe it's from the descending aorta, to the kidney, and it's right next to the renal vein. It's the red blood vessel there. Next thing on the list is the caudal vena cava, and that's a pretty easy one to see. That's the major vein that connects the rest of the body and the two legs on either side all the way back up to the heart. And you can see that it's underneath everything, and it's that blue blood vessel. A little bit obscured in this one, but you can pretty clearly see the tube there. The color is a little bit obscured. Next thing on the list is the thymus, and for this one, it's not really to worry about this because on the dissection process, the flap of tissue covering the heart is usually removed, but the thymus is a flap of tissue on the heart. Next thing on the list is the kidney. No explanation needed there. Next thing is the left ventricle. Again, the best way I can give advice on this one is to look at from the perspective of the cat. So what Stephen has there is the left ventricle, and the right ventricle is on the other side, and it's just the bottom part of the heart there.